So I've been thinking about the idea of how privileged it is for some people to downplay the risks of such widely accepted bad things, right? Like microplastics, right? Instinct when they hear about something that could potentially be a risk is to say that it's not a risk, right? Obviously, there's a whole category of these folks on this platform, right? I've always labeled them as toxic self-soothers, right? These are people that no matter what the risk is or how widely accepted it is as being bad, like lead, right, in tampons, or climate change, or aspartame, or microplastics, there are people that consider themselves to be experts and say that that is not a risk. People look at any risk, they're going to choose one of two sides, right? A lot of people are still on the fence, but they're going to either go with the precautionary principle. Like, we know it's bad enough that we are going to take a precaution when interacting with that substance, right? But people will either do that, adopt a precautionary principle, or they're going to default to rejecting that, right? Obviously, the people that reject that are people like toxic self-soothers, or people that, they just reject any sort of discomfort, and then they will defend that to the very end until it impacts them. And again, I think it's very privileged for people to reject known scientific consensus. They haven't felt the risks of that. I have, right? I didn't really care about plastic, at least the health impacts of plastic, that much, until I was in my early 30s and I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, right? I was always anti-plastic in the sense of I was anti-consumerist, right? I was very punk rock, anti-consumerist, art school kid in LA, but I didn't really care about the health harms at all. But it wasn't until I was diagnosed with an autoimmune, thyroid disorder in my early 30s, and I started taking medication, and then I started looking at my community and the people that I grew up with, and started seeing some really fucked up outcomes, right? Like, why did all of my mother's close friends keep unaliving from breast cancer? And it was just weird because I'm like, wow, breast cancer is a huge deal. Everybody has breast cancer. I realized that it wasn't like that everywhere, right? One of my very closest family friends, she's on her third bout of cancer. Third, right? And I have ADD and no one else in my family is diagnosed. And honestly, no one else really shows symptoms. There's some cuckoo people, but no one has what I have. Certainly no one has a thyroid issue either, right? Has since been revealed that one of the places that I grew up, which was in Bergen County, New Jersey, had a massive PFAS contamination in the water. It causes thyroid disorders, right? There was literally a whole cohort study that looked at that. Right? And guess what? It's linked to breast cancer. And there's a huge amount of breast cancer in Bergen County and in Long Island and all those areas, right? Where there's lots of PFAS contamination in the water. But people are still out there saying, oh, we don't really know the risks. Oh, it's not really that bad. Oh, even though there's 30 studies on it, none of those are good enough. It's still not ironclad enough. I think a lot of that is coming from a place of privilege. I think a lot of that dismissing of evidence and not believing the experts, ultimately that's what it is, not believing the experts on those topics, really comes from a place of privilege where they haven't had something personally impact them, right? And I mean, that you could say that about a lot of things these days. Unfortunately, someone even with a doctorate in chemistry shouldn't have to have something personally impact them for them to believe that what the UN environmental program says is real is actually real.